Hi fashion family, welcome back to my channel. So in this video I am going to be showing you how to create bodice block without shoulder. That a lot of you requested for this. Even though I always recommend the bodice block with shoulder, that because it's just so versatile. You can use it to create any design. However, there are cases where you just want to quickly make some dresses, maybe like shift dresses. You want to make some flare dresses, you want to make shirt dresses. This can come handy. Okay, however, I always recommend the bodice block with shoulder. That's okay. Like I said before, it's quite versatile than this has limits. You cannot use this particular bodice block for a very busty person. It's going to press the person's breast. So I always recommend you use the bodice block with shoulder. That if you're making any dress for a busty person, even if it is a shirt, if it is a shift dresses, if it is flare dresses, whatever design you're making for a busty person, always go with the block with shoulder. That because if you have your block with shoulder that, you can always transfer the shoulder that to the bust. Even if you don't want any seam around the shoulder area, okay, you can always transfer it to the bust. And having the bust that or the shoulder that will create room for the bust. This particular block type, bodice block, is mostly used for people who are not on the the big side. Yeah. And even if at all you want to use this block for a plus size person, it's advisable you make the dress very free, very free. If you want to make a shirt, make sure that it's a free shirt. If you want to make a shift dress, flare dress, whatever design you want to make with this pattern for a plus size person, ensure there is enough ease. If it's a fitted dress for a plus size person, please make use of the bodice with shoulder. That I hope that is understandable. So without wasting any of our time, let's get started. First thing first, you need to get your paper dimension, you need to get your measurements and draw your horizontal line. Okay, I wouldn't be explaining all these horizontal lines again because I've explained it in my previous video on the basic bodice block with shoulder. That's okay. So this is the shoulder line. I've drawn the shoulder line 1.5 inches downward from the top line. If you want to have a better understanding of this video, go and watch the video on the basic bodice block with shoulder. That you will get it perfectly well. Okay, so I measured place the back neck measurement and shoulder as usual. Okay, just the same width. The bodice block with shoulder. That the only difference is that I didn't add that this time around, and yeah, my shoulder width fell on the shoulder line directly, so that's the only difference. Okay, now you measure down from the shoulder line downward to your bust line, half of your arm circumference. Okay, that's how I got to that horizontal line there. Then the next thing is for me to place my bust measurement, quarter of my bust. So I use 40 inches for the bust here. Then halfway between the shoulder line and the bust line is your back width here. Okay, that's what I did. And then I rule a vertical line to connect them. So after getting that line you just got is the guide for your armhole. Okay, so you must have measured your bust. You have your underarm point, which is where your bust stop. You connect it to the shoulder point, and then you measure from the top line to your waistline. Okay, my waist length is 17 inches, and then I ruled my horizontal line there. So as usual, we moved up by 1.5 from the center back, and then I measured the waistline. Quarter of the waist measurement is 8 inches. Okay, 32 inches is the waist measurement. Then I added 1 inch slanted CB. That's okay, 1 inch slanted CB. That then that 1 inch I'll be taking it away from the center back to follow the contour of our back. Okay, the shape of our back. Our back is not straight. Now from the waist point, okay, where the waist stop, I measure down 9 inches for the hip line. The hip line varies depending on the person's hip size and hip length. Okay, So then I ruled my horizontal line there. Sorry, this part wasn't visible. I made it visible later on in the video. So after measuring my hip is 42 10.5 on cutter measurements. I connected it to the waist point of both sides and the center back. So you can see here I tried making it visible, so you see what I did there. Measure the hip from the center back towards the side. Okay, and that was it. Now that's for the back. We'll go ahead to place the neck measurement for the front, and then the shoulder width stop exactly on the shoulder line, no extra. That's what makes the difference. That's just the difference, no extra. Then you measure down the neck depth. Okay, yeah, neck depth. Then I measured my waist, my chest line rather. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't position the camera well at all. I'm so sorry about that. But then everything I'm explaining here is even already in the previous video of basic bodies. Okay, of the basic bodies. I'm going to tag it so you can see it. I didn't know all this parts was cut off. I'm sincerely sorry about that. So the only difference here is just the shoulder, that, trust me, I placed from the neck point to half of my shoulder width, exact measurement. I didn't normally we will add like 2 inches, 3 inches, or depending on how busted the person is to the shoulder width, but I didn't do that here. So that's just the difference. Okay, the chest width remained the same for drafting the bodice block, just like we did in a previous video of the one with shoulder darts. And then I placed the waist measurements. Okay, I placed the waist measurement and added 1 inch dart allowance, the waist dart allowance. You realize that I didn't add any dart allowance, any waist dart to the back. That's because it already has a center back dart. So I told you that once you have the center back dart, the waist dart at the back is not important. So then I placed my bust span using 3.5 inches. That's the apex. Okay, then drew my waist darts. Okay, then connected to the side waist point of the front. Remember, we raised the waist point of the back by 1 inch at the side. We had to do the same for the front. So place the hip measurements. This time around I placed the front hip exact measurement. I didn't add any 1 inch to it. Exact hip measurements. Okay, exact hip measurements. Then I connected my dart. So every other thing remained the same as just the one we did for the bodies with shoulder dart. So the only difference here is the dart and the fact that this bodice block is not meant for all sizes. It's not meant for all dress design. It has limitation, and that's why you don't see me bringing it up all the time. Okay, so that's all about this particular block. It's actually handy. You should be having a piece of it hanging around in whatever size you're working with, because you might just need to quickly draft something out without having to go through the stress of closing your darts and all of that. You get it? So but then I always recommend the bodice block with shoulder darts. So that's it, guys. That's it. So I think here I was trying to make reference to the back waist that I mentioned that earlier, that once you have the center back waist that you would not need the back waist that again. So that's all about this video. Please ensure to like, subscribe, and share this video to your family, friends, and foes. And please don't forget, for you to understand this perfectly, I didn't do detailed explanation of this particular bodies. Just go ahead and watch the video on bodice block with shoulder that you understand everything perfectly well, trust me. And I'll see you guys next time.